Good morning, everyone. For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin this morning in Brazil, where just days remain until over 100 million voters head to the polls. The race remains tight. Current President Dilma Rousseff has been edging ahead of her business-friendly rival in the latest polls. For the absolute latest, we go to our special correspondent on the ground, Stephanie Kennedy.
Good morning, Cody. Well, it's Thursday morning and 4 days remain until the general elections on Sunday, and campaigning is as intense as ever. President Dilma Rousseff is visiting up to 2 different cities a day. Now, this is a big country, so that's a lot of traveling. She has gained significant ground here in the south, a traditionally more conservative and wealthier part of Brazil. Now, yesterday we went to the center of Rio to cover a march that brought together activists, students and workers. Now, they took to the streets to celebrate the Workers' Party government and their social policies, and to defend what they consider the best option for Brazil in the future. All you could see were colors and smiles as Rio moved to the sound of the drums. 12 years under the Workers' Party government is a cause for celebration.
Brazil left the world map of poverty and hunger, and the people have to vote for Dilma. The people can't take a step backwards.
Elections are fought by occupying headlines and column inches in the newspapers. The Workers' Party, however, does not receive the same endorsement. That's why they took to the streets.
The Workers' Party and other parties on the left in Brazil come from the grassroots. Other parties don't have that kind of militancy, and that's what makes a difference. It's the militancy that makes a difference in the final stages.
For some, Aécio Neves as president would mean a return to the past.
I suffered because of the previous government. I was made unemployed. Lula gave me back my job, and I want to keep it, because at some point I need to retire. Social inclusion and the democratization of basic services are just some of the gains consolidated under the Workers' Party. This Sunday 26th, these people will be asking for 4 more years of Dilma Rousseff. Stephanie Kennedy, Telesur, Rio.
And thanks to Stephanie. Staying in Latin America, we go to Mexico, where protests were held across the country demanding answers for the case of 43 missing students. Nearly 15,000 people marched through Mexico City demanding justice for the disappeared students of Iguala. The federal government, led by Enrique Peña Nieto, has stepped up its efforts to find the students. Activists demand more information on the investigation. After a month of investigations, federal authorities blame the disappearance on local authorities and regional gang members. Gang-related violence has killed around 100,000 people in the country since 2007. And as the pressure mounts on the government to find the students, the Mexican Attorney General says that the Iguala mayor is responsible for the disappearance.
An arrest warrant has been issued for the mayor of Iguala, José Luis Abarca, his wife, Ms. Pineda Avila, and the Secretary of Public Security, Felipe Flores Velázquez, as probable intellectual authors of the acts committed in Iguala on September the 26th.
To Uruguay, candidates closed their campaigns ahead of Sunday's elections. The latest polls show that the Broad Front Party is leading both in the first and second round projections. A poll released Wednesday shows Vasquez holds 44% of the votes against 33% of his rival, Luis Lacalle. According to these numbers, a second round vote will be needed to define the presidential election, given that none of the candidates will reach 50% of the vote. In Honduras, dozens of transport workers striked on Wednesday protesting huge crime levels in the country. More than 40 bus and taxi drivers have been murdered this year alone in Honduras. With signs which read "No more lawlessness, no more deaths," the striking workers demanded state intervention to protect them. They also demand an end to criminal gangs charging fees to allow vehicles to pass through areas under their control. Responding to the news that Bolivia has been elected to the United Nations Human Rights Council, President Evo Morales says his country will seek to promote social and collective rights. President Morales highlighted that the election was a recognition of Bolivia's commitment to human rights. During Morales' government, illiteracy has been eradicated and Bolivia has reduced poverty more than any other country in the region. And now we go to the United States, where Wednesday marked the National Day of Action Against Police Brutality. Protesters demonstrated nationwide to demand justice for Michael Brown. They also denounced systemic racism within police forces that continues to affect black communities. In Ferguson, they demanded a special prosecutor for the case against the officer who shot Brown, Darren Wilson. To Canada, where authorities have ended the lockdown of the country's parliament. Authorities imposed the measure after an armed man went on a shooting spree Wednesday at the nation's war memorial and parliament. The man shot and killed one soldier and several people were injured. Senator Jim Munson suggested the events could be linked to Canadian involvement in ongoing military offensives in the Middle East. The World Health Organization has announced Ebola has now killed nearly 4,900 people. It comes as the second brigade of Cuban health workers arrive in West Africa, where they will help fight the deadly virus. The Cuban workers will form part of the more than 400 Cuban doctors being sent to the region. The Cuban effort has received worldwide praise. In the United States, a court has sentenced 4 former private military guards from the Blackwater Company for homicide. It comes after a shooting in Baghdad in 2007 that killed 17 civilians. The men were in charge of providing cover to a U.S. diplomatic convoy. Then they opened fire on unarmed men and women. The case highlights the controversial and growing use of private contractors during U.S. war efforts.
Straight out about 800 meters.
Figures released Thursday show that the U.S.-led bombing campaign in Syria has so far killed 32 civilians. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reports that the vast majority of deaths have been Islamic State militants. The Pentagon claims that while it takes reports of civilian casualties seriously, it hasn't confirmed any civilian deaths so far. And we end this morning with a look at an innovative recycling scheme in Colombia. That's where plastic bottles are being converted into homes. The Colombian organization Design School focuses on building sustainable habitats. This latest method uses everyday plastic bottles mixed with sand and earth to build insulated walls. The roofs of the homes are used to grow plants and food. The scheme uses building techniques of the past to minimize environmental damage. Pretty cool. More on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great Thursday.